Hi everyone. Today I'm going to have an informal chat with my very special guest, Catzmagick, Daniel, my husband. Okay, so we're just having a chat. Were we going to do something comedy or are we going to have a serious chat? So I think we're going to go for a serious chat, but it'll probably end up being a bit of both.
Not necessarily, because just to explain, we just done another talk with some other people, and we thought we'd leave the camera going and maybe just record something of our own whilst
Yeah,
we're in a sensible mood.
while we're in the flow.
And whilst, because look, I made the set really nice. I got all of Magenta's most hippie things in the whole house, and I made a set, except for, see that? Do you recognize that?
It's your shirt.
It's just my shirt, but it just looks like hippie
I could
throw,
have
doesn't it?
given you a blanket though. I've got
No, that
blankets I
works
could have
perfect.
given
I
you.
stacked up. So I thought I
Oh,
was
it
really
looks
pleased
good.
with
And
that.
they're my lovely favorite elephant cushions, which you don't ever take any notice of those cushions.
I
And
know. It's
now
like I
you
just
like them.
discovered them for the first time today. I was really delighted by that.
So we
So,
don't really want to bore people with
no,
chit chat. So we were going to have a serious chat about, we were talking the other day when we went out for lunch. We
yes.
were talking about the Bible as in, is it metaphor or is it actually a historical account of something literal? And I was having a look at the passage or the scripture that talks about Noah and the ark. So I think we're going to talk about the ark specifically because I
Can I jump in
personally
for a
feel,
sec?
sorry,
Can I just jump in for a sec?
I haven't even started yet. Yeah, hold on. I just want to say, I think we'll talk about the ark specifically because I'm feeling that with the story about Noah, the significant symbol there is the ark. So go ahead. What did you want to say?
Just to put it in context, yes, this is we were discussing this when we went out to a cafe the other day, because since I've discovered the Bible, maybe wow, it must be coming up on almost almost 10 years now since I really took the time to study the Bible. And my vibe is, and I've carefully considered this, it's my belief, and I was expressing this to Magenta the other day, that I think the Bible is a divine work, the word of God channeled through the hand of certain humans, okay? And I don't apologize for that. I think it's amazing. Sometimes you can shy away from your spirituality. And specifically, I believe even the most fantastical tales in the Bible, and we're specifically going to talk about Noah and the ark, I think they are literal, as in they really happened, and they are metaphoric, which is why they're so beautifully crafted. So some people can say it's ridiculous. Some people say, oh, it's an allegorical, metaphoric, tale about how to navigate certain situations or storytelling. I think it's all of the above. And I think that's what makes the Bible so precious and sacred and amazing, that I do believe every word of the Bible, the events, Jonah and the whale, the parting of the Red Sea, Noah's Ark, the Tower of Babel, I do think these things literally happened the way they're described. And they are loaded with metaphor. The deeper layers are available to certain people. That's why it's such a well-crafted book. You can look at it as a book of stories, or you can just think it's a myth and fantasy, throw it all away maybe, other than a bit of light entertainment, or you can unravel multiple layers. So I don't want to camp out with, oh, it's all metaphoric. I think it did actually happen. And before I let Magenta loose, one of the massive misconceptions about the story of Noah and the ark is, well, it's ridiculous. How would he have got two of every type of animal, bird, and insect in some sea-bound vehicle? It's ridiculous. How would he have had the resources? How would he have had the space? But the thing is, you've got to remember this was thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, when the laws of physics I believe, were different. B, there would be a different complement of species on the planet. And C, did I say A, B, or 1, 2? All right, 3 or C. If you look at the actual translations, there's multiple different translations of the Bible into contemporary English. And it is actually stated that Noah and his family collected 2 of each type of animal. Now, if you're looking at that just like in modern day terms, what do you mean each type? That would mean each type of horse, each type of, cat, each type of dog or wolf, and like the millions of different species of spider or whatever. No, I believe when it says 2 of each type. Now consider that. I just mentioned dogs. We all know every dog originates from wolves. This is thousands upon thousands of years ago. So when it says type, it could have been like classic examples of certain mammals, certain amphibious creatures, certain birds that since have evolved and developed and offshoots have come about. Alternatively, and I'm willing to accept this, the Ark could be some kind of spaceship or craft, and DNA was harvested and stored for the future. But I totally believe most of the Bible, actually, no, I'm just going to jump in with both feet. All of the Bible, as recorded, literally happened and is metaphoric at the same time. But yeah, we're specifically going to look at the story of Noah and the Ark. And it was great because Magenta, there was a Bible in the cafe and she read through it and she sort of gave a commentary on each paragraph as she read it, what it could mean, what she intuitively felt it meant. I think it's one of the first times you actually taken the time. I mean, lots of us know the story of Noah and the Ark from like kids' books and Sunday school, but I think that's the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've actually read it as it's presented in the traditional Bible. So over to you.
Yes, it's true. I had not read the story of Noah before. As a child, I did go to Sunday school for a while, so I studied some of the scriptures as a young child. Didn't stay at Sunday school for very long. I think I may have read Revelations, or certainly some people's interpretations of Revelations when I was a bit older, but reading the Bible itself, no, I haven't done that, and I haven't read the Noah. So we're on the same page, as in metaphor and literal, but I would explain it in a different way. I would see it in a different way. And this is what the 9 have told me. I've asked them this. What they say is that the Bible is, as you know, there's lots of different writing in there and lots of different work, but predominantly the Bible is a channeled work, if you will, a prophet, a seer, bringing forward information through metaphor. But what actually occurs when you do that is the metaphor itself is triggered by events that are occurring in the channel or the conduit's reality in life. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to express that. They'd have to have some knowledge of what that frequency was, what that energy was. And also, it's a magical act in the sense that once you bring something forward, as in you've observed it, you've seen it, you've recorded it in some form, modern day, speaking online, writing books, or however they transcribe the Bible, I don't know. I mean, you can perhaps tell me that in a minute. Was it written on stone or on papyrus, or did they actually have paper? I haven't got a clue. But what I'm seeing is when the prophet or the seer brings forward this spiritual teaching or teaching of truth using metaphor, then metaphors are presented as spells or some kind of magical act. And what that then means is, in that current time, or certainly in the future, or in cycles of time, those metaphors that are used to explain these spiritual teachings can actually physically occur, but not just in one place or in one time period. So you're looking at cycles of time where perhaps, let's talk about Noah's Ark, for example, there could be some kind of vessel or submarine or boat or spaceship, as you say, again and again and again throughout time, within cycles of time, that fits that metaphor of Noah, of the ark, and other stories in the Bible going across in space as well as time. For example, people might say, well, we found the ark in the Bible. It's buried in, say, India, let's say. Someone else might find an ark under the sea in China, in Greece, in Spain, in America. What I'm saying is that multiple opportunities for manifestation of those original metaphors, because they were written in such a sacred, magical way. So I think what you're saying is it's a historical account of something that physical that happened, but it's metaphor as well. What I'm saying is it's metaphor, magic, and that creates the physical account. So the metaphor comes first, the physical reaction to the metaphor comes after the writing. But I think you're saying that the event occurs first, and then the prophet is writing down the event as a historical account. So we're saying the same thing, just in two different ways. Do you want to comment on that before I go further into what I actually thought the whole Noah and the Ark story was meaning?
I would like to, and thank you very much for that, Magenta. That was very coherently expressed. Thank you for your contribution. Regarding the authorship of the Bible, you're correct. There are vast parts of the Bible, specifically the prophetic books in the Old Testament and the last book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation, which are a kind of channeling or a deeply intuitive vision. And some of them are loaded with quite abstract imagery. Regarding where the story of Noah is recorded in the first book of the Bible, Genesis, the first 5 books of the Bible are attributed to being written by Moses himself. And you need to remember, when you're saying, oh, I don't know how they were recorded on scrolls or stone, or probably none of those, because these are such ancient tales in the book of Genesis that it would have been before any kind of written communication, which could have been easily passed around, before the printing press, obviously before the internet. So the emphasis on passing information accurately, I believe, and this is backed up by what a lot of authors suggest about ancient stories, it would have been such an integral and precious part of their culture and their upbringing that they would intrinsically know these tales inside and out, and they would take the time to pass it on word for word and every detail to successive generations. So it's not simply like, oh, it's recorded in a book and somebody might pick it up in 100 years. People were living books. They would carry the information with them because they learn them inside out, just like you would learn a beloved song. And also, regarding the flood narrative, this strangely occurs in multiple different traditions and tales that are seemingly unconnected throughout the globe. One of the most famous ones, the Epic of Gilgamesh, seems to very closely follow the flood narrative and some kind of craft and the same characters, although they have different names. So regarding the first 5 books of the Bible, I believe that is actually Moses attempting to summarize the most important stories which would have been of that time period, regarding all of the creation stories and the stories of the early humans and how they navigated the world. And as I mentioned previously, I do believe the laws of physics were different. So whereas on this side of history, these seem fantastical and almost ridiculous, maybe contemptibly abstract, silly stories, I think if you pass it through a different filter, these were not fantastical stories. And I think as I want to remain in a place where I'm completely respectful to anybody's interpretation that yes, it's metaphoric. It's what the seer, you could say, well, Moses saw it in a vision, but I think it's more than that. It would have been part of the culture of everyone in the time of Moses. He took the time to write it down and record it. And it's not like I'm precious about the integrity of the Bible. It's because it was here before any of us were. My journey with the Bible is that when I read these stories, I was kind of neutral. I'd go away and do more research when I thought, wow, that is a quirky episode. I mean, there's an episode, there's a story about a talking donkey in the Bible. And I remember in Shrek, there's a talking donkey, isn't there? So I don't know if they got that from that, but I do believe these things happen because that specifically was about an angel, I believe, interacting with the animal because its master was hitting it and treating it cruelly, and it temporarily had the power of speech, and later on it had the ability to see things which its master couldn't, and it stopped him having an accident. So I believe it was a tale about treating other creatures well. So it was given the temporary ability to talk, which I think is fantastic. So yes,
not literal.
but this is the thing. I
believe the donkey was talking.
It's not that I want it to be true. I do, but you believe anything's possible, right?
Within the laws of physics of this reality, no.
But that comes back to what I said. The laws of physics were different at different points in time. So when you're this far away from miracles and seeing demons and angels in front of you, it seems unrealistic. If you flip that the other way, people back then would be like, why are there no, if they could see the future, and they're like, why aren't people seeing angels and demons in plain sight? So it does sound silly, and I love the silliness.
Well, donkeys can speak in the astral realm.
Absolutely.
So if you out of body travel and meet a donkey, it will be able to talk to you.
In addition, a lot of scholars will agree that really ancient stories, there wouldn't have been an emphasis on people to create fictional stories to entertain each other. That's why I also believe the Greek myths, Greek mythology, Mount Olympus, Zeus. I do believe a lot of this is pretty factual, and these fantastical tales of these superhuman beings, whether they're native to Earth or aliens, ancient sort of spaceman kind of myth story narrative. I do believe that happens. So if the Bible tells me that Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of a whale or a big fish or some kind of sea creature,
submarine,
it could be a submarine, yeah. And obviously through his he couldn't have entertained a technology like that at the time. Maybe he would have recorded it as, I must have been in the belly of a fish, because he gets into a shipwreck and then he ends up there. So yeah, I can accept that there may be nuances in how people interpret sort of things, but I do believe the core of the story is a man was shipwrecked, ended up in something, and was spat back out on the shore again. And there were mystical things in place. So I do believe that the Bible is mainly, if not completely, literal and metaphoric. Back to you.
I think we're on the same page, and I would say that perhaps you believe the Bible is predominantly literal and metaphoric, but if you had to choose one or the other, which you can't because that's not truth, but if you had to, you'd say it's literal. And I would say, yes, the Bible is literal and metaphoric. I see it in a different way. If I had to choose which one, it would be metaphoric. So you're leaning more towards the literal. I'm leaning more towards the metaphor, but we're both agreeing that it's both. So you mentioned Moses. I know very little about Moses. I don't know much about him at all, actually. But what I'm seeing is that Moses was very significant in this whole biblical story. And I know that the Bible, and certainly the later scriptures, talk about Jesus, and obviously it started before Jesus was born, and that Jesus is obviously a main figure throughout the Bible. But what I'm seeing is Moses being not necessarily the main figure, but the most significant, or really what I'm being seen is the central figure. So if you were to look at the Bible as a story, you'd think the protagonist is Jesus. But what I'm seeing is the core point, the core character that allows the thread to run through, the core point that holds the piece together is Moses. I'm not saying Moses is the most significant character, but I'm saying that Moses is a core piece that holds it all together. Now, the nine have told me that Jesus Christ, the Jesus that went into the story of the Bible, that there's more than one Jesus, and they actually said predominantly there are 5 different people. I think they said 3 men and 2 women that were Jesus in the Bible, but that's another subject. If I go to what we were originally going to talk about, and that's the story of Noah and the ark, which I feel the ark is the main message in that particular story, and one of the main messages of the entire Bible. So as I was reading it, I was feeling that, we've got this man who gets a message from the Lord, from God, who says there's going to be a big flood. And lots of people will be swept away in this flood. They've been bad people, and I want to, wash away these people and cleanse the earth of sin or whatever. But you're a good man, so I want to help you to survive this flood. What I am seeing this as is a typical end times scenario, as in coming to the culmination point of a planetary epoch. Now, I don't know for sure, but this could be at the end of Atlantis. I am seeing this more as where we are now. It could be both. And I feel that there's much in the Bible that is the past and the future, because it was seen, rather than it being a historical account of something that happened, it was seen of something that's going to happen and spoken about in metaphor. I think that these are codes for individuals at end times, at the point of planetary completion and ascension, which is where we are now. So when God, or the Lord, however the word is interpreted, spoke to Noah, he said, I'm going to cleanse the earth of all this sin and wipe away the darkness and everything. I see this as, if you will, the harvest. The beings that are in sin, if you will, are service to self beings, the negatively polarized beings. But also that could be the unpolarized ones, the unawakened, if you will, what modern day would call normies, that aren't living in integrity. That could also be an interpretation of that. But what I'm feeling is, when the Lord said to Noah, you are a good man, I am proud of you, I am pleased with you, that is service to others. I think what we're looking at here is service to self and service to others, negative and positive. So Noah represents not one person. It isn't one man that was told, hey, I'm God, build a giant boat. That's a metaphor. I'm not saying that there aren't literal components to this story that have manifested throughout time in cycles that mirror that. But I think the ultimate message is Noah is a group of individuals. These are the service to others positively polarized individuals. Translated to modern day, these are the starseeds. And the Lord is saying, there's going to be this cataclysm, there's going to be this flood. Now, is it a literal flood, actual water? Is it a flood of information? Is it a tsunami of energy? I am leaning towards more tsunami of energy, and within the 3D reality, flood of information, but it's ultimately a tsunami of energy that's going to change reality from one state to another state. So what the Lord is saying to Noah is, I want you to go with this change. I don't want you swallowed up by these waters and to perish. I want you to ride upon the waters and survive into the next stage of reality. So this is an end time scenario. So the waters being the flood of energy, which is what we're experiencing now, Noah being the starseeds or the group of awakened ones, whether it's Atlantis, whether it's end times now, or even Lemuria. You know, this is a repeating cycle. And so the ark is a vehicle that is going to allow the starseeds, the group of Noah, to go with this flood of energy into the next reality, state, dimension, octave, epoch, whatever you want to call it. I feel, and I've spoken to the Nine about this, that the ark as a vehicle is the Merkaba, and I feel that the ark is the ark of the covenant, as in a covenant, a promise, but also the ark as in an arc. So it's sacred geometry, it's the Fibonacci sequence, it is the golden mean, it is the ability to raise the heart and the frequency to bliss, to activate your Merkaba, your light body. So you go with this flow of energy, you go with the planet, you do not perish. And it's not actually talking about death and life necessarily. When the Lord says, I'm going to wipe out all this sin, what I feel that means is I'm wiping out the memories of these individuals, and it's not anyone else wiping them out. It's because they don't have enough charge to hold the memory to go into the next reality, epoch, upgrade, octave, whatever. So this is what's perishing are the individualized memories of those that are service to self, or certainly within the service to self polarity and the negative polarity, those who have sinned. And what is surviving through the arc, the Merkaba, the Fibonacci sequence, the bliss frequency, the light body, the rainbow body of light, what is surviving are the individualized memories. And I think this is the end time story, the story of completion that the Nine have been talking about for months. I think that is what Noah and the ark means. Now, I'm not saying that there might not be something more literal. Was there actually some kind of apocalyptic situation involving something more cataclysmic? Potentially. And if you're looking at water, the ark could have been some kind of huge, highly advanced technological vehicle underwater. It could definitely also have been a spaceship where beings were taken off planet from one planet to another to safety. I believe that all these metaphors that are layered may well have happened. But what I see, or what I aim to see, and what I wish to know when I'm in communication with the Nine is the ultimate metaphor, the actual reason for this, as far as my expansion can go. And I feel that is the end time story. The ark is our Merkaba, our sacred geometry, and the flood is the inability to hold the memories that are not cohesive. And it's Noah is the Aurora network, Noah is the starseeds, and this depicts our future as well as cycles that have occurred before. What do you think of that?
I would agree and compliment your perspective in the sense that there is loaded metaphor. However, when you asked me, would I lean more towards literal or metaphor, and you're more metaphor and I'm more literal. Yes, I'm more literal, but there's no way I could delete the metaphor from it,
No.
because that's what I believe makes the Bible such a divine book. So I can't possibly say it's not really a good model, because your metaphor, I'm literal and metaphor. I can't choose one or the other, because to me it's both, and it's to take the metaphor out of it would diminish its divinity. And whereas you can get caught up saying, well, the Bible's been edited over time, it's been corrupted, different scholars or politicians of the day have put in their own ideas or deleted parts of it. That may have happened. And there's lots of extra biblical books as well, which may or may not have been hidden, or maybe they just fell out of popular interest. Whatever way you look at it, I still believe that the Bible in its current form, as it's reached us right here, right now, in May 2023, and there are many nuanced different variations of the Bible, new ones coming out all the time. It's been translated multiple times throughout the ages from different languages, different scholars, to reveal different meanings from the original sacred text. If you can ever fully extract the exact meaning or what the original author was trying to convey, who knows? But I do believe that regardless of perceived editing or changing or corruption or suppression, I do have faith that we have been given it in the form it is today for a reason. So I can't get cynical about it. And it's like I say, I'm not. Well, the thing is, I don't need to argue or apologize for the integrity of the Bible, because it was here thousands of years before I was, or certainly parts of it. But also the Bible is written by around 30, I believe, different authors. It's a collection. It's the greatest hits of sacred scriptures, and the reason that they're put together in the way they are is because it shows a developing relationship between human and God, or a divine source, what have you. So early back in the Bible, the story of Noah, which the story of Noah doesn't actually occupy that much space in terms of text. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a culmination or an end times apocalyptic thing with that much gravity, because it's the nature of God and man seems to change throughout the course of the Bible, almost like humans and God are trying to figure each other out and develop a better relationship. So the nature of God in the Old Testament is very different than the culmination of the New Testament with Jesus. Regarding Moses being the protagonist, I thought that was interesting, because obviously the Old Testament is the celebrated text in Judaism and Islam as well. So you could say, yes, Moses kind of got the ball rolling, because he starts off the whole narrative for the first 5 books. And Moses is one of the most esteemed figures in Judaism. So in that sense, yes, I think you could say that the flavor of the Bible is set perhaps by Moses, because it's like he leads the way, or whether he meant to or not, he's been placed. The books of the Bible have been placed in that order. Sometimes chronologically in terms of history. I do believe there's a divine order to it, which isn't just orchestrated by people who've been inspired. That's very much the vibe of what books are in the Bible. It's books which are deemed to have that essence of divinity, breath of God about them. Regarding Jesus being the protagonist of the Bible as a whole, it's interesting you said that. Obviously, the New Testament is the culmination of the promise of some kind of figure like Jesus. However, it does remind me, I saw an advert recently actually, and it's a scholar and a man of faith, and he's actually saying he's written a book, and you can actually see something about Jesus in every line of the Bible. And I thought, that's fantastical. If that's actually true, that's amazing. But he's saying you can actually see a foreshadowing echo from the future back to the past in every part of the Bible, which I thought was astonishing, because if you look at the Bible, that much of it is the Old Testament, and then that the New Testament is only like that much. So I think that just reinforces that other people, many other people, are seeing the multi-layered, incredible amount of information, which may be, I think there's information in the Bible which is in plain sight that everyone can access, and then there's layer upon layer upon layer of meaning, even in parts which seem to be just like dry and descriptive. I think this is the beauty of the Bible. I don't pretend to understand it all or ever be able to understand it all, but I think it's this thing that's in plain sight in most people's houses, and they just think it's a dusty old book on a shelf. It's the most magical book that will ever be. And as far as I know, no sequel has been written yet. So I think it does occupy a space in history. And I'm pretty sure this is just a notion. If you go into any parallel universe, see, because I like the wacky woo-woo stuff as well. I love it. If you go into every parallel universe and you pick up a Bible, I think you will find that they are all identical. It transcends space, time, and creation. So that's what I'm going to leave you with there.
I would say that if you go into every parallel universe, some of those universes won't have a Bible, they'll have something different. But, you know, if you're talking about parallel universes that are close to this one, then yes, I think the Bible is a gift to humanity, with, as you say, multi-layered codes for each individual to take the message they need to take from it. I mean, it was interesting because I mean, I haven't read much of the Bible, but when I was transcribing the Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, the Nine came forward with all this information about the 12 tribes of Israel, as you know. And I didn't even know the real story, not the real story. I didn't know the Bible story. I only know the story the Nine told me, what the 12 tribes of Israel are. I was never shown what the literal is supposed to be. I know now, because we've talked about it since, that there are literally, according to the Bible, 12 tribes of people. But the Nine aren't saying that. They're saying the tribes are aspects within the individualized matrix, which is all in the book. And then with the new book, the Diamond Codex and the Quartz Key, they talk about the parting of the Red Sea, which is a magical act. It is a spiritual work that occurs within you as triggers to the DNA. It's part of the work. So I see the Bible as information and codes for everything we need at the end of an epoch or the end of a time period. You can see that at the planetary end times if you want. All the planets are different time periods anyway. So they're all time periods. They're periods of time that go through this cycle. And when you come to the end times of a cycle, things get so apocalyptic and so challenging for the individuals that are incarnated at that time, that they need to have some kind of guidance through. And that guidance will come in multiple forms. But there is one, well, there are more than one, but the Bible is one of these keys of guidance. And yes, that will be there in some form in all the parallel universes that are going through this cycle, that express themselves in the way that our universe is expressed. There are other universes that don't express themselves this way and that have time differently. I can't even analyze what those universes are. they're so different to ours. But for those that have universes like our universe, there will be some form of guide or key like the Bible, and potentially it is the Bible in various forms. Yes. So that is interesting. You know, the two different ways that we look at this, and that, you know, our perspectives are complementary. But also there was something else we read while we were in the cafe, a little bit further into a different chapter in the Bible that you showed me, because I was saying quite strongly that I feel that everything is metaphor. I'd be surprised if I could come across something that is literally describing something that's literal only. And you said, yes, there is something, and you showed me a piece within the scriptures where I think it's Moses is describing this. Is it not Moses? It's okay. It's some character in the Bible describing this big thing with wheels and spinning discs.
I just refresh your memory. It was the book of Ezekiel, and it opens with the prophet Ezekiel, and he's describing this craft. It seems to be some kind of craft, and it has interconnecting wheels which are spinning, and what appears to be lights or eyes all around it, and it moves in a very specific way, almost like it's hovering, like it's some advanced technology. So it, whatever way it's traveling, it's facing, so say that's the craft, and it's always going like that, and then when it changes direction, the face changes, and it's incredibly kind of similar to modern testimonials of people seeing strange craft in the sky, that they seem to be able to hover seamlessly and silently, and accelerate and decelerate at incredibly specific and, you know, seamless travel, just fluid movement that doesn't seem to adhere to any known technology. So that's from the book of Ezekiel. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah, that definitely seems to me to be, when I read it, a description of something rather than a metaphoric message. So we've got Noah and the ark as metaphor, but this one, the Ezekiel, did you say? Yeah, that one definitely appears to be a description of something. So that's some kind of technology, especially as the description is about pieces of metal, as you say. So we are looking, I think, at some kind of technology, at some kind of actual craft, possibly some kind of machine, time travel. Very interesting to work out what that might be. And I will have to communicate with the Nine, and hopefully they'll give me some clues and information about what that might be, because that's really, really interesting, because it didn't have the same feel. So when I was reading Noah and the Ark, there was a completely different feel to the Ezekiel information, almost as if it had been written by somebody completely different, even at a different time. You know, it's okay. So that's true. So yeah, it's like the energy, the perspective of the writing, the point of view of the writing is different. Everything is different. So it's almost like Noah is like multi-dimensional, higher dimensional information is speaking. An actual angelic force is speaking. But with the Ezekiel one, it is more of a physicalized force that was speaking. Now I feel that Ezekiel would be a group soul, but like a logos or a sub-logos, but they can manifest in different ways, because a group soul can be a smaller group and a fourth dimensional group soul, or a group soul can be a huge collective consciousness of the eighth dimension, if you will. So it's almost as though the Noah and the Ark information is coming from a much higher dimensional place, and the Ezekiel information is coming from a more physicalized dimension, and that we are looking at a description of some kind of advanced technology. I'd like to delve into it more, but that's what I have at the moment. What do you think?
Okay, you're absolutely right. It's a different person, different time period. As I said, there's about 30 different authors of the Bible. The
Written
books
over
are
what time period?
thousands of years. We're talking like,
Oh,
if you go back
right,
to the origin stories, probably 15, 20,000 years. And these are all
right.
collected together. And the people writing them at the time wouldn't necessarily have known that their work was going to be placed in a divine book
So who
in the
put it all
future.
together? Who made the Bible?
Well, there's I don't pretend to understand the exact scholarly authorization that was taken to collecting them into one place. There, many of them would have already been precious to various groups of people and would have been passed on verbally and and uh, and preserved that way. Especially the books of Enoch, the books of Enoch, which are extra biblical. It is in the Egyptian, sorry, it is in the Ethiopian Bible, though, part of the canon. That is supposedly written before the flood, and there's no way. I guess the logical, some people have suggested the logical conclusion there is that the books of Enoch were either on the ark with Noah
Hold
or
on, stop. Can I
preserved
stop?
by Noah.
Sorry, I stop you there. The books of Enoch. What are the books of Enoch? Are they
There's
in the Bible now?
the first book of Enoch, as far as I know, is only part of the main Bible in the Ethiopian interpretation.
All right. Sorry, I
There,
don't mean to interrupt you. Can I just
yeah,
tell you what the nine are kind of showing me now while you're talking? And you tell me if this is possible. Is it possible that the Bible is one book of several? Is it possible that there is a library and the Bible is only one book within that library that's been given to humanity? Is it possible that there are 12 other books or 11 other books or 10? Is it possible that there is a collection and the
well,
Bible's only one?
I'm equally as interested in the extra biblical work. I mean, when you talk as the Bible as a book, yes, it's a book in its current incarnation at this point in history, and I do believe that that collection of scriptures is put in that collection in that order for a reason. But when you the Bible is many books already collected into one volume. If you actually take all the extra biblical stuff, that would
No,
be
I'm
hundreds of
talking
Bibles.
I'm talking about one Bible, which
Mhm.
is a collection of books already, and then there being like 12 more or 11 more, potentially 13 of them altogether, and that we've only got one available to humanity, and that there are 12 others somewhere else. Is that
I
possible?
would love that. I would love that to be true. And I've often thought there's so much amazing work that's been written, especially in the medieval period. Um, in contemporary kind of society, though, I think the canon of the Bible is closed, as in they're never going to introduce more to the Bible in its current form, although it does differ slightly in different parts of the world. But there's so much good work just from the medieval period alone that you could actually argue that should be collected itself into something which should be preserved as a complementary or secondary volume to the Bible. But the Bible stands alone in everybody's kind of uh, thoughts and feelings and consciousness.
Yes,
Regarding there being 12 equally as important collections of scripture,
standalone, 12 other
I would,
standalone books.
I I think we're still at a refinement process, and it stands to reason people who are writing amazing works now may one day have their book included in a volume 5,000 years from now. Who knows? Who
Yes, I
knows?
mean that's possible, but what I'm kind of being shown is that the Bible is one of 13, that it's actually a library that was the gift to humanity, and we've only got one of them. There's 12 others that are
That's intriguing.
standalone books. Now that could be a metaphor, but
or literal and
that's what's
metaphor.
being shown. Yeah. I mean, could it
Oh,
be that some people, maybe the service to self groups, have kept literature from us and only allowed us one?
possibly. Anything's possible. Like I say, I've long since given up being sad about things being hidden from us, as in like actual ancient information, because I do think there's so much ancient information out there right now that a lot of people, if presented with, unfortunately, they simply wouldn't be interested enough to really. I think much of the ancient wisdom is there in plain sight if the person is wanting to take the time to look into it, or if they're guided to. Regarding the extra works you speak of, though, that is definitely intriguing, and I think we can agree our perspectives are complementary. They're not opposition, because I mean, the understanding of the Bible or any sacred text is an ongoing thing. So whereas I'm here now saying it's literal and metaphoric, I don't want to create the impression like I'm on one camp and I've planted my flag. This is my position as a Christian, and I will only entertain alternative ideas so far. Not at all. I'm very much for the open discussion, interpretation, reinterpretation, throwing every idea into the mix to swirl it around in your mind and offer some other perspectives. That's how we advance our understanding of a work. I'm not about the dogma. I'm not about hanging on to ideas because I want them to be true. I do feel they're true. And I can't imagine ever being convinced by any doubter that, oh, it's just fairy tales. It's got no more essence than just a sci-fi novel. I do believe I've come to a place where I can accept it, and the only thing going into the future is for me to unravel and investigate further and further and further layers of it, and with wonderful people like you, my wife, to offer me insight and intelligent discourse along the way. I fully trust that if this is an example of how people should look at material from all sources, then as a couple, as a collective, as a humanity, as a species, we will reveal the divine secrets which are waiting for us to unwrap and delight in. And if we can switch off from like just debating for the sake of it, we could find an amazing glittering prize at the center of the universe, and we will all look at each other in astonishment and saying, wow, we figured it out together, and here is the reward.
Well, I was going to say it's a good job that our perspectives are complementary, because we'd be arguing all the time if they weren't, wouldn't we? Were you channeling just then, Catzmagick?
There's an inclination to when a person speaks a certain way to say that they're channeling, or
It's
I think I'm just deeply passionate about the Bible.
it's not about
And
speaking a certain way. What I know to be channeling, and to be honest, channeling is probably not the best word to describe what I do or what anyone is doing when they say they're channeling. It's a bit of a misleading word, which I've spoken about before. But to me, there is a change of energy. And what I see in the person is the memory system within the DNA unlocks itself and starts to flow up into the consciousness. And what actually happens with that person is the stream of consciousness begins to present itself before the processing of the brain kicks in. So you allow the words to just flow without necessarily analyzing what you are saying. The analysis comes later when you turn back and look at what you've said or what you've written. That's what I do when I'm bringing forward the 9 and I'm writing or speaking. It's simply allowing the expansive consciousness that is the memory system that is beyond your third dimensional awareness to flow. And I could see that you were doing it just then. Did it feel different to you when you were speaking the last sort of 3 minutes of your monologue?
Well, that's marvelous. I mean, that's not really for me to say because I don't want to be, um, I don't want to claim something that I'm not. If you perceived something, then I will take that, and I'm grateful for that. And if I did say something which people found useful, my hope would just be that it came from God, and I was just a vessel. But like I said, I'm not going to big myself up because I do
Yeah, don't
think
say
that,
you're channeling God, otherwise
no,
people start.
no, I don't want to
Magenta
commit
Pixie's
to.
husband says he's channeling God.
No, I wouldn't want to commit to being puffed up and say I'm a channel,
Yeah.
I'm a prophet or anything. If you resonated with something I said or did, then that's fantastic. So yes, I'm not really sure what to do with that.
Okay,
Um,
so
it's
what
all
I wanted to
reassuring.
say about this library, I am told by the Nine that when something is taken from the service to others structure, from the positively polarized group, most especially at end times, because you are in, I won't use the word that I won't use a word that means clashing together. There is a chess game, let's say. There is a polarity play out during end times. And the service to others play that polarity through integrity, trust, love, togetherness, unity, service, healing, and everything that goes with that. And the service to self polarity play that out with the mind games, the corruption, um, the potential harms to others, and control, and all of those things. So when the service to self structure, the negative structure, one of the things they will do is take something from the service to others structure to prevent their ability to expand and go through enlightenment, ascension, and all of the light body awareness. They will try to prevent that occurring, and they'll do that by reducing what they have, taking something from them. Now, when they do that, because reality is balancing itself out, and especially at end times, there's a flood of positive frequency when you're on the upswing in this curve. So you're going through this cycle. When you're on the upswing of the curve, so you're going into the galactic reality that's pouring these light particles of very high vibrational energy, solar flares, if you like. That's just one part of it. When that's coming in, it's mostly coming from the suns and the central suns, the galactic core. When that is coming in, everything is moving back into the positive. So if the service to self group takes something from the service to others group, then that is given back to them in a different form. So let's just take the potential metaphor of biblical standalone collective works. So say you've got Bible number one, and that there are 12 other Bibles, all standalone collective works, creating this library of 13 sacred texts, let's say. If one is left for humanity and 12 of them are taken and hidden, the information that is in that hidden work will be given back to humanity in some other form. And as they move into this galactic awareness, and this light is raising the expansion and activating the pineal gland and triggering all of this DNA memory, everything that's in those hidden texts will come back to humanity, whether that's in the form of humor, television, music, art, channeling, or some person coming out of the woodwork who you thought was long hidden away, and showing themselves with and bringing forward information, new truth, blowing of the whistle, whatever you want to call it, however it may be. What I'm saying is that the service to self individuals will always have a backlash to what they do, because it's a balancing of positive and negative. It is a balancing of polarity and a raising of polarity that's occurring. So you said there are some wonderful works out there that complement the Bible. So it could be that these if this is literal and not metaphor, I don't know. I only can say what I saw. And this library could be the DNA itself, and that the one Bible is just a key or a code for that DNA. But what I was shown was 13 Bibles. It may be that there's one in 13 different quantum realities, like you said. But let's just say that there were 12 Bibles that were taken from us. Could there be other works that is presenting that hidden material? Now, I'm strongly getting the word Aquarian. So did you tell me that there was a gospel that is called the Aquarian Gospel that you've mentioned to me before? What's that about? Is it a complementary work to the Bible? Could it be further information that's come up in the way that I'm saying?
There is a book, and it's called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. And I believe it's written by an anonymous source. That claims to record the missing years of the life of Jesus in the Bible. In the traditional Bible narrative, the story of Jesus ends at about age 12, and then he reappears at age 30. So it claims to give information on his journeys across the earth, perfecting his teachings and stuff like that. Now, that is also, interestingly, one of the first, as far as I know, recorded books which claim to have, the author claims to have recovered that information from the Akashic records.
Oh, right.
The
Okay.
Akashic libraries. It's one of the first references and
Right.
most celebrated works regarding a person transcribing information that they viewed from some kind of mystical plane, i.e. the Akashic records.
Okay, so the Akashic records, and that could be what I'm being shown, these 13 Bibles. I might actually be being shown just a metaphor for the Akash. The Akashic records, that is the accumulation of what I'm calling the memory, the DNA memory system that is stored within this frequency galactically in all structures, in all stars, in all planets. So the Akashic records, if somebody is genuinely, if you will, channeling the true meaning of the word, activating that memory system, then they're drawing down information from the Akashic records. So the books that I have written, transcribed from the 9, you could also say they come from the Akashic records. The Akash is a memory system that anyone can go to and anyone can access. So it could well be that these 13 Bibles that I am seeing is simply a metaphor for the Akashic records. And it could be that the 9 are saying to me that the Bible came from the Akashic records itself. What's interesting to me is the vast difference of descriptive writing and energy between the Noah and the Ark story, and then this description of this vehicle. So anyone watching this, if you've got any further information about these topics that we haven't stumbled across and that we haven't covered, by all means email in and let us know what you've read and what you've seen, because this is extremely interesting, I feel. Also, Daniel, I took some notes. Well, I actually spoke to the 9 earlier, asking them some questions for our earlier podcast. So I was wondering if I should just, there was one piece that I didn't manage to say. However, the document appears to have disappeared, which means I'm clearly not meant to talk about that. So we just did a podcast. Is that Jesus? Is he Jesus, rather? Yeah, we just did a podcast with Becky for Sacred Wisdom, for Connecting Consciousness. That will be up on Becky Park's Sacred Wisdom YouTube channel. And obviously that will be shared within the Connecting Consciousness group as well. And I would imagine that would be up within the next couple of days, where we both, Daniel and I both did the chat. And we talked about the divine feminine and the divine masculine and the different ways of expressing and perceiving that. And I did actually ask 3 questions of the 9 and only managed to answer 1. However, mysteriously, the documents disappeared. So I will take that as a sign I'm not supposed to talk about that now, and maybe I'll bring that forward somewhere else. And I do actually answer one of the questions in the chat with Becky anyway.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me today, Magenta. Even though you're recording this, it is your video and it will be on your channel, I presume.
Thank you for joining me.
Final thought though, I would encourage everybody who might have been reluctant in the past to look at the Bible, to maybe visit it with fresh eyes, a fresh perspective. Don't think of it necessarily as associated with any particular religion that you might have had bad experiences of. And you're absolutely right, Magenta. Yeah, that's Magenta. I don't really call her Magenta. She doesn't really call me Catzmagick. And when she's cross with me, she uses my full name, Daniel Paul Saunders.
I do not call you that. That was your mother. She used to call you Daniel Paul.
So I was just going to say, you're right. There's many different voices and styles throughout the Bible. And you might be astonished the diversity of thoughts and ideas which are in it. I don't want to go on an offshoot because it would just lead into another talk. So I'll save that for another. If we do one of these again,
I just embellish on what you're saying. I think a lot of people don't want to look at the Bible because of negative experiences that they've had with religion. And you know, Catzmagick is quite right. You have to separate religion, orthodox religion, organized religion, from the book of the Bible itself. They're 2 different things. Religion have taken the Bible, used it as this, doctrine, and they've then built their own interpretation around it and built their own group and community around it. And you get a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th hand experience. Just move all that out of your mind. Forget any religion that unless you want to embrace religion, by all means do it. You know, it can be fantastic for some people, but for those who've had harmful experiences and traumatic experiences, negative experiences of religion and churches and things, move that away as a separate issue and approach the Bible as you said, as a completely new experience, as an unrelated experience. And the only person there to monitor your reading of this material is you. No one else is going to know you're reading it. It's only you. And there's nothing, I think some people are concerned that there may be darkness that's been placed into that. Well, everything's hijacked. So if you're going to see darkness in one area, you could see it in multiple areas. But you must always be aware that the light flows through everything. The light is there. And all you need to say is, draw me to the passages and the paragraphs and the scriptures within here that contain the light. And ask for signs, ask for synchronicity. It's magical when it happens. And you can actually get this with any book you read. You know, you can actually pick up a fictional book and still have synchronicity with one of the passages you've read, if it's meant to be meaningful to you as part of your meaningful subjective experience. So that's how I would approach the reading of the Bible if you've had traumatic experiences with religion in the past.
Absolutely. And we'll wrap up here. I'll just make one final point, but I don't want it to deviate into another.
And I'll make a final point, and then you can make another final point, and then I'll do another. No, I'm joking. Go on, make your final point.
Yeah, that's the reality of living with this chick, y'all. You know, I mean, always got to have the last word. Exit stage left, come back onto the stage. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
joking,
no, I think I'm really respectful when I talk to people. I interrupt you, I must admit, but I do try not to do that with guests and when I go on to round tables and things.
So my final thought was going to be, because this is probably quite a long video now. I hope people are enjoying it. I got no idea how long it's been. My final thought, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to bounce back because it's not a contradiction. But I don't think it's good to use the phrase everything is hijacked. I don't believe everything is hijacked. I'm really optimistic. I've always been really optimistic. And to quote Julian of Norwich, all is well,
Julian
all
of
is well,
Norwich?
and everything shall be well. Am I saying that right?
Who's
All shall
Julian of
be
Norwich? Can you give me
all.
some context?
Julian of Norwich was a Christian mystic who recorded lots of deep insights and visions. She actually recorded two versions, a short version and a long version. She created the long version after years of contemplation. And she was what's called a anchoress, I think. Anchoress. She made a vow to spend the large proportion of her life in one room. It was like a room that would be attached to a church. It was a practice back then. So she could, whether that's physically healthy or not, that's debatable. But she made a vow to spend the rest of her life in this room. It was a privileged position to be an anchoress. I think it's anchoress or anchorite. To spend your days in solitude and deep and solemn prayer and deep mystical intuitive work. And bizarrely, her one companion who would go in and out, a cat. She had a cat. So the cat, she let the cat out of the window. It was her pet. So it's just her and a cat in a room most of the
Okay,
time.
well, just before you do your final thought, I'd just like to say that you're correct. To say everything is hijacked is far too sweeping a statement. It's an exaggeration when you're actually looking at everything. What I mean is that the darker structure has intended to create a hijack in as many areas as possible. When you get into the fifth dimension, there is no hijack there. So anything that holds fifth dimensional energy isn't going to be hijacked, and you choose which energy you marry yourself up with, that you line up with. So you're right, not everything is hijacked, and that is a sweeping statement. So thank you for clarifying my phraseology and my terminology, which you often do.
The last word shall be Julian of Norwich. Since you've been talking, I just looked up the exact quote, and I'm going to deliver this to leave the audience with, because it's on a positive upswing. And this is from Julian of Norwich, the mystical Christian writer. And she said, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And that's her most famous quote.
Lovely.
So thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope you had a good time. I hope I presented myself well.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye.
Okay, signing off. Bye.